It's now time for On the Line with Cheryl Wilkerson. The conversation will range from local dialogue to international. This show is meant to enlighten, inform, and to inspire. On the Line with Cheryl Wilkerson begins now.
Hello and welcome to On the Line. I'm your host, Cheryl Wilkerson. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday morning. I appreciate it. I understand that your attention could be divided other ways, but again, we do appreciate it. And if you saw the social media post and by some chance you missed the show, you can always go to our YouTube channel. It's always posted there later in the week. So we're getting it done. Excited about the guest today. We have Mayor Kenneth Cooper Alexander. He's my guest today. Of course, the mayor of Norfolk, Virginia, reelected recently in 2020. And he's also a chancellor of a network of career community colleges. And he's also the president of Metropolitan Funeral Services. Been in this community a long time getting things done. Welcome to On the Line, sir.
Thank you, Cheryl, for having me.
All right. We're going to have a good time this 30 minutes. Is there anything off the table that we can't talk about?
No. It's, I'm a pretty open person. Pretty open. Yeah. You know who I am, and your audience knows who I am, so I don't think there's much that we can't discuss.
Said open book. Let's start with a problem that many cities are having across the entire United States. That is crime. That's been written about so much, Mayor, especially in Norfolk, about the changes that you all have been making to curb some of this violence. Can you bring us up to date on the city's tactics and whether they are working?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I would say first, pre-pandemic, we were experiencing some of the lowest crime rates, numbers, violent crime, property crime, auto theft. You name the category. Mm-hmm. We were trending downward, and that was because of our community engagement. Also, our programs in recreation and in prevention and intervention and workforce development and just doing good things throughout the community, throughout the city. And this is not only the city, but the private sector, our religious partners, our partners in higher education, working together for better and safer Norfolk. Pandemic comes. A lot of those programs were shattered or closed, and we start seeing an uptick in crime. And this is not only violent crime, but also auto thefts and burglaries and you name it. So, also if you look at Cheryl, what happened in our penal system, in our Department of Corrections, a lot of people were sent home. A lot of people were let out. Thousands of people were let out of jail early. And those persons returned to communities around the state. And Norfolk was not exempt. Norfolk was not spared from individuals who were serving time being let out of jail early. And a lot of those individuals were in communities where they had previously offended, that communities that they know there were opportunities. And so you couple that with the pandemic, people shed out of counseling and therapy and coaching and whatever was helping them to stay well and be well. And so Norfolk and other cities across America experienced an uptick in crime. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the things that we recognize that, and we as a city decided that we have to have two approaches. One approach was a very short-term strategies, and that's code enforcement, drug enforcement, traffic enforcement, enforcing the laws and having this zero tolerance policy. And then we also launched some long-term strategies and partnered with the Newark Street Team and other persons who can help prevent crimes from happening in the first place through programs and training and getting involved in communities at the very local level, at the civic level, grassroots level. Those are some of the strategies that we are currently engaged with and in. You may heard about some of the things that happened downtown on Grammy Street and with the clubs and restaurants and bars and et cetera. First approach was to go out and engage those individuals and to have a conversation with them about their establishment and what was happening in their restaurants and in their businesses. And the second, you educate, you engage, you kind of get to know what's going on. You educate, show them the rule book, show them what they agreed to do as relates to their conditional use permit. Mm-hmm. When you have, if you're an establishment that serves alcohol or have a dance floor, have a DJ, a ballroom, you apply and most likely receive a conditional use permit. You agree to operate your establishment in a certain way, and your floor plan, your life safety plan, your exit plan, your security plan is all laid out. We all agree. We agree. You agree. This is how we're going to conduct business. Our hours of operation is posted. Mm-hmm. And when we do an unannounced inspection or we engage, in some cases we determine that, wait, what happened? This is not the floor plan that you submitted. This is not the life safety plan. Where's your security plan? Oh, that wasn't an exit door. How did it become a back door? And what happened to the offices? They've been blown out, and there's a dance floor, and so we find these things when we go and have these inspections, and when that happens, what we have to say now, we have to enforce. So first we engage, we educate it, we come back the third time, and it's like enforcement. And so no city wants to close down a business.
Right.
That's not. Norfolk is open for business. We're receptive. We're open for business. We want you to start your business in Norfolk and grow your business, scale your business, and reinvest in your business in the city of Norfolk. So that's just a quick kind of overview of what we experienced after COVID, during COVID, and some of the programs and strategies that we have deployed.
Those businesses in Norfolk, it bothers me because I'm a softie. So I'm worried about the employees and how they're going to make money. And then I'm also worried about that, of course, you don't want anybody else hurt down there. And I just keep wondering to myself, so what is the answer so that people can have livelihoods, but people don't get killed at the same time?
Yes, correct. For example, if your business, according to the fire marshal and zoning and planning, you only can have so many patrons because this has the square footage, the floor plan, the exit strategy. And when we inspect, we find that you have many more people than it's rated for. There's a capacity, there's a load that can only have so many people based on the square footage, and in order to keep the patrons safe as well as the owners safe. And we warn you that you have a problem, you can't do this, and you keep coming back, and we come back, and to the point, well, this person's just not getting it. They're just not getting it. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you have to enforce. And you're right. People lose their jobs, and a business is closed, and the city loses revenue, and so it's a domino effect. It's just not.
Yeah, it is. The
city losing money. We get that a business is closed, and people may be out of work, and that's difficult. That's very hard. You don't want not to make money. You don't want not to collect taxes, and you don't want people out of work. That's just not the right formula for success.
That's it. I'm speaking with Norfolk Mayor Dr. Kenny Alexander. Can you give me an update on redevelopment within the city of Norfolk? What's going on that front?
Yeah. So, as you know, Norfolk is 97% developed. Norfolk, we're not land rich. We're developed. We're built out, and so a lot of development that you see in the city is just that, as you noted, it's redevelopment. It's transformational. The largest redevelopment project right now in the city is, of course, St. Paul's, downtown St. Paul's, Tidewater Gardens community is being transformed.
Right.
It will be redeveloped into a mixed income community. And one of the things I want to share, and it doesn't receive a lot of attention, that the Housing Authority and the city, both of us, have committed to the right of residents or families to return. So before we started this work, every resident, if they made clear that they wanted to return, there's a path for them to return to the redefined St. Paul's footprint, so they can come back to community, to the new community. It'll be mixed income, so not all public housing units. You would have market units. You would have public housing units, as well as those persons who may use a voucher, assisted to receive assistance with their rent, and that formula, that model, creates a community that reflects Norfolk. Norfolk is made up of various income brackets.
Right.
We have had more public housing than any other city in the region. So more public housing units are in the city of Norfolk than any other city in the region. And so that's who we are, and that's part of our family, part of our story. Also, Norfolk hosts most of the arts and culture amenities and facilities, from the Chrysler to the Harrison Opera House to the Virginia Stage Company, to Scope, or our venues, 7 venues, Scope and Chrysler Hall, and the Attics. And Norfolk, of course, we have the universities are here. Norfolk State University, Old Dominion University, Eastern Virginia Medical School is here. Tidewater Community College home office is here. And Virginia Wesleyan, although most of their property is in Virginia Beach, they started in Norfolk, and they, for years, used their principal address, Wesleyan Drive in Norfolk. So Norfolk, I say that to say that all of those properties that I mentioned, including the Naval Base and the Port of Virginia and the Research Hospital, Trauma Hospital over at Centera, and the Children's Hospital at CHKD, all are wonderful employers. Actually, they employ a lot of people, and they're assets, but they don't pay any real estate taxes at all.
Correct.
And how I primarily fund the city's budget primarily from what? Real estate taxes. So it falls on ratepayers, those who pay real estate taxes, to carry the lion's share of shaping and formulating our budget. And so those are some of the challenges as it relates to redevelopment. So why can't Norfolk, redevelop this or redevelop that? Well, we're 97% developed. Number two, a lot of our property is non-tax, and we don't control it. And number three, the properties that we do control, we certainly are open for business and look forward to developers, large and small. So you don't have to be a large developer to do business in Norfolk. You can be a small developer with an idea, with a dream, concept. You bring that, we'll try to figure it out and try to get it to market and try to help that dream become a reality.
I am wanting to ask you about topics that I hear people on the street talking about. When you mentioned the scope, I hear people all the time saying the scope needs a do-over, or is there a plan for the scope to have a do-over? Also, I want to ask you about Calvert Square and Young Terrace.
Yes. So scope. Let's take scope first. Yeah, scope needs a refresh. It's an iconic look. I mean,
it is.
And of course, it's been very difficult, of course, to keep scope, clean, because it seems that the material, the concrete, the material that scope is, the exterior material there is, it appears that it absorbs everything from its surroundings, and so it's been very difficult to keep it clean. It needs power washing. But that's just the exterior. We looked at a few years ago increasing the seating capacity at scope. When we were looking at building an arena downtown, the first thing we wanted to do is let's look at scope. What is the feasibility of increasing the seating capacity at scope? And what we were told by structural engineers and the architect, that we would have to dig down, just almost like a tunnel.
Okay.
But you're going instead of going horizontal, like for a tunnel, you're going vertical. You're going down. You got to go deep, in order to build to increase the capacity. The price tag for that at the time was north of $300 million. Whoa, yeah, to increase the capacity to get, and then we were only adding probably 3,000 or 4,000 seats. Well, still that's still, with the 10,000, 11,000 that we have now, that still was sizable. Adding could get up to maybe 14,000, 15,000.
But and that is so much money, and it seems like
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, that doesn't equate to the number of seats in my brain.
Yeah, and then you compare that to building a new arena, because even when you're doing that type of redevelopment, you're going to run into some issues. And the architect and the civil and the structural engineer, they say, "Oh yeah, we'll do this." And so my question is, how are you going to deal with the water and the water table and water, the floor from flooding? Or now we're going to put pumps, and we can put barriers, and we can drain. And so it got very complicated.
Right.
And to the point where we said, let's look at building a new arena somewhere in the city for the region. And that's the work that we are undertaking right now, building a new arena for the region. And of course, Military Circle,
yes,
that area came up as a possibility. Downtown, of course, we floated that. We put out an RFP for military. We received about 8 or so responses. We narrowed it down to 3 responses,
mm-hmm.
3.
Right.
And we have all 3 of them still in front of us. One of them we're going back and forth with. But
and you're
that's
not
where we are
going
with
to tell
that.
us which one, huh?
Oh no, the one that we've been going back and forth with is Pharrell's team.
Pharrell's,
His team. We've been going back and forth with it because you only at some point you have to just work through one at a time, because when you get down to 3, you're spending time, you're spending hours, human hours.
Mm-hmm.
You have lawyers involved. You're going back and forth looking at funding, intent, letter of intent, funding, and funding formulas, and who's going to do what, parking, infrastructure. So you kind of get into the nitty gritty.
So I don't do politics. So I don't know the answer to this question. So when you say you're looking at 3 seriously, and you look at one at a time, how do taxpayers know that any government has sincerely looked at like the top 3? How do we know that there hasn't just been, we had 3, but we just looked at one really closely? How do we know that? Because
that's a good question. So that's a good question. So the council, myself, or the council and I, we allow the staff to bring the recommendations. We're not on the team. We're not on the review team.
Mm-hmm.
I have never been on a review team looking at contracts or proposals, and no one on the council. We have professional staff made up of city manager, attorneys, and others. They will do the deep dive, and they would crunch the numbers. They will run all the analysis, and they will even employ outside experts, subject matter experts, for if it's an arena, a casino, if it's a development where the city is going to participate, and they will narrow it down and say, here is our recommendation based on what you've asked us to do in the RFP. So that's how we know. That's how we can keep that integrity.
Okay.
You know, to avoid all the appearances of impropriety or any type of as you noted, how do you know the taxpayer is getting? It's a recommendation coming from the staff, not from council.
I get it. Calvert Square and Young Terrace, update on those?
Yeah, so Calvert Square and Young Terrace, when we applied for the C&I grant, the Choice Neighborhood Grant, to transform Tidewater, Calvert and Young's, they weren't in that C&I grant. The Choice Neighborhood Grant was only for Tidewater Gardens. So right now, we don't have an application. We don't have a path to renovate or do the transformation of Tidewater and Young's and Calvert.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing we would have to do is do the same thing we did with Tidewater. We had to go out and have a conversation with the people. Mm-hmm. That's how we approached Tidewater. We went out, and I personally went out and met with residents to hear their stories and what they wanted for their community, what type of community that they envisioned, and what's being built in Tidewater largely is what we heard. People wanted walkable, bikeable communities. They wanted amenities. They wanted to be well lit. They wanted on-street parking. They wanted back doors. They wanted some detached, some units to be detached. They wanted, like a clubhouse or fitness area. They wanted multiple places to go for relaxation and gathering, like a town square. They wanted a place where they could assemble. And so what you will see in the renderings and the proposals for Tidewater is just that. It's what we were told by the residents that what they wanted. And so the same approach would, in my opinion, would have to be done for Young's and Calvert. It's engagement. We have to go out and engage and listen, have meetings in community. Go out and have those meetings and bring the entire city hall and the entire housing authority, and we go as a team because you do it with, not for. You do it with residents. You're not doing it for them.
Correct. Yeah,
you do it with them.
Yeah.
And hear their voices and let them tell you in their own words what they envision for Calvert and Young.
And Young. I have to ask you this, dealing with your business, Metropolitan Funeral Home, I am concerned when I pick up the newspaper and I see people are acting differently at funeral services these days. Can you please address this and put a word out and ask people please to calm down and respect what's going on?
Yeah, every person deserves to have their memorial, their homegoing, their funeral service. And at Metropolitan, we believe that given the family an opportunity to memorialize and celebrate their loved one. We are servants. We're serving the family and the community in that transition. Yeah, people should respect the wishes of the family in a way that reflects our values and beliefs of dignity and goodwill. Yeah, we've seen people act out at funerals. We've seen people come to funerals and be disrespectful. Not only in funerals, at the cemetery or at the church.
Wow.
Outside of the hospital, if you go to the emergency room right now, you may see 4 or 5 police cars parked. I don't know the last time you've been by a hospital, been by an emergency room, but any given evening, go by an emergency room, and you see, why do we have so many police cars parked outside of an emergency room? Mm-hmm. It's because, one, it's safety, public safety. They're concerned of our first responders, our nurses, our nurse practitioners, our ER doctors, our EMTs. They're concerned that someone who's been injured or been hurt, and they are afraid that the person who perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator, the alleged shooter or aggressor may show up at the emergency room.
Right. I got it.
But you put so many other people putting so many people in a very uncomfortable place and in space.
I think we got to get back to loving people instead of all of this nonsense. We only have a few minutes left in the program. We have like 3 minutes. Dr. Alexander, what would you say to people about the midterm elections that just passed and the future of America? What would you say?
Yeah, I think that independents and moderates and people of goodwill made their opinion heard by not voting for what was supposed to have been a wave. I think the Supreme Court decision certainly played a role. January 6th, the attack on democracy at the Capitol played a role. And I think that people are concerned. I believe more people are now tuning in and paying attention to their government in ways that
I think you're right.
It never happened before.
I think you're
One
so
time
right.
people I'm just going to vote red. I'm just going to vote blue.
Mm-hmm.
I think people want to hear the candidate. People are interested in the issues, and it's about the pocketbook. It's about inflation. The cost of everything is high. I was just preparing for Thanksgiving, and things cost 40% more than they did a year ago. Just everything, like 40% more for the basic Thanksgiving meal. People are concerned when people don't have enough money to buy the necessities, buy the basics. It's not Republican, it's not Democrat. People want to know, what are our leaders going to do about things like the cost of gas, and rent, food, medicine. Everything is high, and wages maybe 2%, 3%. Inflation 8%. So there's a gap. So if you only got 2 or 3%, and wages is only inflation is 8-9%. There's a gap. There's a 6%. Where's that coming from? Yeah, it's a gap, big gap.
Mr. Mayor, we are running out of time. I want to thank you so
always good
much.
to be with you, Cheryl.
I appreciate you taking out the time out of your day to talk to us today. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and we'll do it again soon.
Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
You all all, thank you for listening. This has been On the Line. Have a great Sunday. I'm Cheryl Wilkerson. You know, we do this every Sunday at 11 a.m., and I'm just pleased when you all join the conversation. As I said earlier, don't forget, you can always, if you missed an episode, you can go to the WNSB YouTube channel, okay? You all have a great Sunday. Behold the green and gold.